The Show Form button or behavior command will allow a user to open a new instance of a form whilst already active in a different form instance. The newly opened instance can be of the same form or a different form altogether. A relationship between the different instances can be created, and data can be passed between the form instances using custom parameters. The example we will use in this tutorial is a new starter form. There are a number of different things that need to be put in place for a new starter, and each process could have a very different workflow. Rather than building a single form with a very complex workflow, it's likely to be easier to separate each component process into a different form, each with its own specific workflow. We start in the main new starter form, and we have a Show Form button that we will use to create an instance of an IT services form. In the Show Form button properties, we first need to select the form that we want to start an instance of. Note that the target form does need to be published before you can select it. I've already got one selected here, but let me show you how that would be done. Press the Select Form button and then drill down until you find the form that you want. We need to choose what type of relationship we want between the different instances. There are a few different options. By selecting one of the child instance options, we are creating a relationship between the forms so that the IDs of the child instances are stored as a parameter of the parent instance. This makes it possible to reopen those instances later. Choosing the options New Instance or New Child Instance will mean that a new instance will be created each time the button is pressed. In many cases, that's just fine, but in this example, we only need to create a single new instance of each form, so we will choose Single Child Instance. In this case, a new instance will be created the first time a button is pressed, and that same instance will then be reopened on each subsequent press of the button. The Custom Parameters table is where we determine which pieces of data are passed into the instance that is being opened. In the Name column, we define the name of the parameter that will be used, and in the Source column, we select the field on the form where the data is to be passed from. I've already set up 5 parameters for this example, so let's just put the last one in. So with the parameter that I've called mName, I want to pass the data from the Manager Name field. It's important to note down the parameter name because that same parameter will need to be used in the child form in order to import the data that's being passed across. That's all we need to do in this form, so now we will save it and open up the child form, which in this case is the new starter IT form. The data from the parent instance, which is sent via the custom parameters, will need to be imported when the form opens. Do be aware that we only want to import the data the first time the instance is opened, because that's the only time there will be any custom parameters available. That's why we start the logic off with a simple branch command with the condition of the stage equals new request. If we didn't do this, then the next time the form is opened, the data would be overwritten with blank data. A set field command is used to import the data into the target field. In this case, that's the Manager Name field. In the value, we use one of the PerfectForms functions called getCustomParameter. we need to be sure that we enter the parameter name exactly as specified in the parent show form command. If you remember, that was mname. The rest of the parameters have already been included in this example, so all we need to do now is to save and republish the form. Now the moment of truth. Time to test the parent form logic, which we can do using the preview command. As you can see, a new instance of the IT services form is opened and the data is imported via the custom parameters. It should also be noted that the show form behavior command performs the same thing, but it does have the advantage that you can combine it with other behaviors too. For example, you might want to include a check mandatory command to ensure all the data has been added before you trigger the show form behavior.